So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I'm here in Ratanapura and thought to make a video today about leeches. So you can see this is a very beautiful environment, but also it's quite humid and quite wet. And in areas like this, in Asia and other places in the world, tropical, semi-tropical sometimes, one can find leeches. So unlike the leeches that I've seen in North America, the leeches in these areas, they come onto land, they live on land, whereas the leeches in North America and other parts of the world are in the water. So these leeches move along like an inchworm. They kind of spread out, then buckle up, spread out, then buckle up. And they are very sneaky. So they can get onto somebody in all kinds of situations. One wouldn't really know where they came from. And they feed on blood. They have a suction cup on the bottom of their body, and at the top of their body they have these very sharp teeth. So what they'll do is they'll get onto their host and use the sharp teeth at the top to burrow a hole, and then they'll feed on blood. And they inject an anticoagulant into the wound so that they can keep feeding, the blood doesn't clot when they're eating it. And so what this means is that actually after they fall off or one removes them, the wound continues to bleed. So just to give a little comparison, an adult mosquito, I think they can take somewhere between 0.001 milliliters and 0.01 milliliters of blood if they drink to their fill. An adult leech, including the adult ground leech, including the blood loss that comes after they fall off, the amount of blood loss can be even up to 10,000 times or more than that. Because they can take a significant amount of blood. They're a much larger animal, and then the wound keeps bleeding afterwards. So if one wants to try to prevent them from coming on. If they come on, to get rid of them. And if one gets bit, then one wants to try to take care of the wound as best one can so that one gets the least damage. So in this video we're going to go over, in that order, how to take care of oneself in leech country. So we're going to go over how to prevent. We'll go over how to remove them if they do get on. There's basically three methods that I like to use. There may be more, but these are the three that I've seen and that I've found effective. And finally, if one does get bit, then we'll go over how to take care of the wound. So let's talk a little bit about prevention. So in terms of prevention, what one can do is one wants to put like a substance on one's feet, and I've heard different things that work. Like I've heard soap, certain types of soap work, or like soap maybe mixed with salt, I think has worked. I've never tried it, because there's one thing that I've always been using that works really well, which is what they call pengiri tail here in Sri Lanka, or in English is known as citronella oil. So all that one does to use it is one sprays it around the feet, and here in Sri Lanka, you can get it in bottles of different sizes. It's very good quality, and one wants to make sure that one gets it in there between the toes, under maybe even under the feet, and around the sides. So where the leeches really like to bite sometimes is between the toes. Like sometimes the second and third toe, or the third and fourth toe, they'll be like a little closer together on people who grew up wearing shoes. So they have this little tiny gap here, and it's hard to see right through the gap. And what leeches will do, they have an instinct for that. They'll go into that area and they'll bite there. And they don't have bones in their body, so they don't mind getting stepped on as much as something with bones would. So they can manage to get into that area and keep feeding in ways that one doesn't notice. So one wants to make sure that one gets this oil worked in well to this area between the toes. So this prevention is very good. So what they do is, if they get on to a person's body when it's been coated with this pengiri tail, they very quickly get off. You can see very clearly that they're disgusted by it. So maybe what we'll do is we'll just go to a video and show what happens when a leech contacts pengiri tail. So now we'll move along to strategies, maybe second best scenario, if a leech actually gets onto one. So there's there's essentially 3 strategies that one can use to try to get rid of them. There's probably more, but these are the 3 most effective that I've seen. And we'll go over them in order of increasing effectiveness. So the first one is what they call the roll, or what can be called the roll. So because leeches have these suction cups on their bodies, when they are walking, they can be they can attach to skin very well. So it can actually be very difficult to get them off. They're kind of very, very sticky. You kind of get them off, try to get them off one way, and they're still stuck to your hand. But the thing is, because they have these suction cups, if one picks them up between the hands and rolls them, it breaks their ability to fix their suction cup to the skin. So it can actually roll them between the fingers and then throw them. So maybe what we'll do is we'll go to a clip and show what that's like. Number 2 on our list of techniques is the flick. Because leeches inch their body or arch their body as they go along, they are vulnerable at the point when their body is arched and they're about to move to their new destination. Their suction cups are not fully affixed. So when the leech is in its full arch position, it's possible to flick it and it will be removed from the body. So let's go to the video and show how this is done. The third of the techniques, and my most favorite, is what's called the smear. Now, the principle behind this technique is relatively simple, and I like it because you can do it with one hand, and it's pretty safe, and it's pretty effective. All that one has to do is to find a somewhat rough surface. One doesn't want a surface that's too rough because it can damage the leech, and one just smears the leech along the surface. The leech often becomes confused and reattaches to whatever surface one is smearing along. This can be very fast and also very easy, requires only one hand, and one can quickly remove many leeches in this manner. Let's go to the video and show how it's done. So last we'll talk about what to do if a leech bites. So when leeches bite, they inject an anticoagulant into the bite, which is why there's so much higher of a multiple of blood loss from an adult leech bite than a mosquito. It's one of the reasons. Leeches are larger, but you lose quite a lot of blood through this anticoagulant effect that some chemical they have in their saliva. So when they fall off, there'll be a wound. The wound will be bleeding, and quite a lot of blood can come off depending how long they've been there, depending how large the leech is. And so the object is to kind of stop the blood and then close up the wound. So one of the things that one can do is to basically get a piece of tissue or whatever it might be and mop the area with the blood, because often there'll be quite a lot of blood. You can't tell where the bite is. Then once you see where the bite is, take some turmeric powder and apply it to the area where the bite is. You can make like a decent paste, a decent hill or a little mound of powder, and kind of press it in there. And this is because there'll be a certain amount of blood coming out of there. So it'll mix with the powder, it'll form a little bit of a paste, and it'll hopefully prevent further blood loss. There are some times when leeches, they get you so bad that so much blood is coming out, you have to do this a couple times to really stem the blood loss. But in my experience, and again, caveat, at your own risk, my experience, turmeric powder actually has some really amazing properties in terms of healing cuts, healing wounds. So as a monk, I almost don't carry antiseptic around anymore when I'm in the forest. I carry turmeric powder. I mean, I do have some, but it's not my default. Turmeric powder is my default. And it seems to heal things almost as fast as antiseptics or antibiotics, and it comes in powder form. But again, as I mentioned, at your own risk, this is something that I like to do. I can't say it'd be effective for everybody. So if the wound starts to bleed, you're getting all this blood, can mop up the blood, see where the bite was, and then apply turmeric powder to that. If it keeps bleeding, it bleeds through the kind of powder mound that you've made, then you can take that off and apply a new powder mound, and eventually it'll stop. So this is quite a good thing to do, especially if you've been bitten really hard, because it'll stem this really extensive blood flow. So let's take a look at a video and see how it's done. So that concludes our video on how to hopefully avoid, remove, and stem the loss of blood from leeches and leech bites. So I hope this video was helpful and that it might be useful to whoever wants to come and meditate in these beautiful, sometimes very secluded, sometimes very nice places to be to meditate, but also having leeches. So wishing everybody all the blessings of Dhamma practice.